Joining me now to talk more about these tariffs is White House Senior Counselor for Trade and Manufacturing, Peter Navarro. Peter, good to see you.
Hey, Maria.
Thank you so much for being here. Tell me about, first, the tariffs on the prescription drugs, because we all understand President Trump's goal here. Get the supply chains back to America so we do not rely on an adversary like China for 90% of the overall components in prescription drugs. Is this 100% tariff going to do it?
It's going to do it as part of a broader strategy to do it, Maria. And nobody's covered this story more than you, and nobody knows the vulnerabilities more than me, dating back to 2020 and the pandemic years, when I was the Defense Production Act policy coordinator, trying to make sure we had all the medicines we need, and finding out that the rest of the world didn't necessarily want to give them to us. So this is an important issue. There's one of the other big issues is the cross-subsidy kind of thing, where people in America have to pay more to Big Pharma for the same drug that people abroad pay less. The president is attacking this on every possible front. The beauty of everything we're doing, Maria, on the tariff angle is it's designed explicitly to bring in domestic investment to build up our own capabilities and shore up gaps in our supply chain. So this is a very good thing for America. Remember, there's no tariffs if they're building here.
So there are a couple of companies that we've talked to. I mean, the CEO of Eli Lilly, Dave Ricks, has been on this program many times, talking about all the investment that he's doing in America. Johnson & Johnson has also expanded. Do you think the major drug companies have already a stake in the ground in America, or who gets impacted here?
Well, look, again, my experience in the pandemic is they'll do this kicking and screaming, and that's why Donald Trump is president, has to be president, and delivers the kind of tariff approaches that he does. And look, something came across my desk just this week that shows you the kind of problems we're facing. I had a situation where a Chinese company gets approval for an antibiotic at the FDA, gives a bunch of money to an Indian company, and then the Indian company fronts to get a contract at the VA that pushes out an American maker. So those are the kinds of things we're having to deal with, and that's why the tariffs are so necessary, and that's why President Trump is acting on this. We cannot be caught with our antibiotics down and other pharmaceuticals and be exposed to that kind of pressure. We learned that from the rare earth magnet issue most recently, but that's just one in a string of examples where foreigners try to exert pressure on the United States. We won't tolerate that.
Yeah, and look, that's what John Ratcliffe told us years ago, right? The Chinese corporate MO is rob, replicate, replace. Okay?
Yes.
Rob the information about how to do something, how to make the product, replicate it, and eventually replace that company. And I wonder if corporate America understands that. I mean, is it all worth it? Going all the way to China, having your supply chain there, selling, wanting in on the Chinese market so that you can get replaced?
Maria, I've been going back to the Coming China Wars book in 2006.
Yeah,
I've been telling corporate executives that the risk of offshoring far outweighs the rewards. Just ask Jeff Immelt at GE, who ruined that fine company doing that. But when you mention China, let's segue, if we may, over to the furniture and kitchen cabinet tariffs, because that one's dear to my heart. When I was getting my PhD at Harvard, I actually managed a small furniture store. I had an occasion to go to High Point, North Carolina a lot to buy inventory and things like that. And I know that furniture and kitchen cabinets are like highly craftsman-oriented industries that got completely gutted. And right now, China, with the cooperation of Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand, are running a game on the entire world. The EU has imposed tariffs as well, and it's really important for us to protect our craftsmen. And then you go over to heavy trucks. That's like heavy trucks. In addition to now to the auto tariffs, heavy trucks are absolutely critical for national security because, I mean, if things happen, if we don't have the capability to convert that heavy truck capacity to things we're going to need to fight conflicts abroad, that's not a good thing. So what the president is doing in an inflation-free environment, Maria, is fundamentally restructuring the international trade environment in a way which has brought $17 trillion of new investment here. It's shoring up our supply chains, making those more resilient, filling gaps in our defense industrial base. And by the way, it's $7 trillion worth of revenue that's going to help us pay down our national debt, keep our 10-year going down, and keep our mortgage rates going down, and our housing. It's all, this is the thing, the three-dimensional chess of Donald Trump. He sees all of this moving, and this is what he does, and this is why it's going to be great for America.
Well, look, I'm grateful for the focus on national security, certainly, and I know many citizens are. But you've got to deal with China somehow now while we are so reliant on their supply chain still. So I think he's walking this balance of pushing, but not pushing too hard, because he knows that we can't decouple altogether right now because of the reliance that America has. I mean, look at the TikTok situation. The president signed an executive order allowing TikTok to operate in the United States, continue operating in the U.S. VP J.D. Vance helped broker the deal. He said the company will now be valued at more than $14 billion. And under this new deal, U.S.-based Oracle and other key investors will own the largest stakes. ByteDance will own less than 20%. President Trump said that he spoke with Xi Jinping about the deal. And the U.S.-China trade negotiations are ongoing. The leaders met again yesterday at the White House. We've got more official discussions expected between Treasury Secretary Bessent and his Chinese counterpart in October. The Treasury Secretary told me that earlier this week when we spoke. Peter, do you have a confidence that China and the Communist Party will not have access to this important data of our young people? They're getting their news. They're getting their shopping. They're getting all this stuff from TikTok.
A couple things here. Let's always remember that as we're negotiating with China, we have over 50% tariffs on China. So that's number one. We talked, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, about the importance of Oracle in particular in terms of the investors in this. The other two investors are basically the money. Oracle basically is going to function as the great firewall of America. And the strategy here is to have Oracle be able to control not just the code, but also any updates to the code, and really take control of that so that China can't do what they historically have been doing, which is finding all sorts of ways to get into our databases through apps and other things, and then go ahead and attack. I mean, it's well known just how deeply embedded Chinese communist spies are in the software networks of America. It's a very dangerous thing, but the Oracle, that's why Oracle's there. They're top of the line, and I wasn't part of the TikTok deal, so I'm not privy to that, but I do understand that Oracle is there to serve as the great firewall of America, and make TikTok, I guess, safe. Not again, but safe.
Well, any thoughts on the Fed, Peter? We've got a whole sling of economic data out next week. But, of course, we're waiting on the PCE index this morning. Former top economic officials are urging the Supreme Court not to allow President Trump to fire Lisa Cook. The letter from former Fed Chair Alan Greenspan, Ben Bernanke, former Treasury Secretaries Larry Summers and Janet Yellen, all are pushing this. They write, firing her would expose the Federal Reserve to political influences, thereby eroding public confidence in the Fed's independence and jeopardizing credibility and efficacy of U.S. monetary policy. We're going to speak with William Pulte about this coming up. But Lisa Cook's attorney claims that the president's stay application asks this court to act on an emergency basis to eviscerate the independence of the Federal Reserve Board, as if Mr. Powell did not eviscerate the independence himself. Your thoughts?
Well, there are big thoughts here. This is not about Fed independence. The Fed hadn't been independent for a very long time, particularly under Jay Powell. It's been a political organ of the left, and Powell himself has caused three major blunders dating back to 2018 that have imposed enormous harm on the American economy, and shame on him. Lisa Cook, look, you don't have to be convicted to get fired, Lisa Cook. The president has full powers to take you off that board. It's not about independence. It's not about even your incompetence. It's about the fact on the surface that the American public has lost trust in you. I was in prison for a misdemeanor for defending the Constitution. I met folks in there who did exactly what Cook was alleged to do, and they're in there for many years. It's a serious crime. We need a good Fed. We don't have one. Love Stephen Mirren there. Take care, Maria.
Thank you. Good to see you. Peter Navarro joining us. Stay with us. We'll be right back.